Hi, I'm Desiree Brown from Desirable Home Sales, and I am here with my very special guest. This is my husband, Vernon, and we're here to just talk to you about finances. It's been something that has really been on the minds of people, especially since we've all been facing this big global crisis called the coronavirus. And we just wanted to offer some advice, some encouragement, and some ideas to help you guys stay on top of things financially and to plan in case that things go a little bit longer than we anticipate. So, Vernon, okay, so why are we doing this?
No, so I think you summed it up really well. We obviously know that there's a crisis going on, but even after this, even after the coronavirus is long gone, I think these principles are really important to instill and to make sure that no matter where you are in your financial timeline or life, that you have these type of plans available so you know how you're going to respond should something go wrong, should someone lose a job, should a business go out of business, or should your financial status change for whatever reason. So, right now specifically because of the virus, we're tightening the belt even ourselves.
Yeah.
But, I think these are principles that live much further than hopefully the crisis will.
Yeah, this has definitely been an unexpected reality check for us, for a lot of people. And so, we really wanted to talk about some of the questions that we've been receiving from our family and friends, just some of the questions we've seen just posted out on social media, and just kind of address those things too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
I think it starts with, when something like this happens, you always have to ask yourself, essential versus non-essential. Where can I trim the fat? What are the things that we're spending money on that is smart to spend money on because we have to, mortgage, food, shelter, things like that. And what are some of those areas in which we can trim the fat that we may not need? Netflix, Hulu, YouTube TV if you're me, and a few other streaming services.
Yeah.
What are some of those ways that we can hopefully skinny some things down so we can make better financial decisions?
Right, and I mean that term essential and non-essential has really been coming up a lot. People, the job types that are out there, the folks that are having to go into work, and the folks that are having to stay home, or that's how we kind of got to that.
And I got a problem with that because I'm not essential, but my check is surely essential.
I mean, I'm seriously, okay. All right, so you already talked a little bit about some of the essential things. That would be like the roof over your head. I would call that important. Essential. Food in your belly, again, essential. Those are the things that we're, clothing. You want to stay clothed. So I would consider those things essential, but I think that within each of them, there are some non-essential things, some ways that we might have been operating before that we may not need to operate like now because of what we're facing at this point.
So for example, I have a pair of dress shoes that I think need to be replaced, but someone at this table may not think needs to be replaced.
I mean, do they have holes in them?
No, they don't have holes in them.
I mean, are they like worn down to the point you can't wear them anymore?
I can still wear them.
Okay, well, I don't think that it is essential to replace them at this point in time. Okay?
I saw that going differently in my mind. But so for a real example, like when we say clothing, it's do you have enough to get by?
Yeah.
We really have to change our mindset, even if, we haven't lost a job personally, but really functioning as if that's going to happen. So when it does, we're in a better financial position to weather that storm. Right.
Just skinnying down. I mean, speaking of skinnying down, let's talk about food, okay? So we've been at home or places that we've been, sheltering in place, or what are we calling it? So social distancing right now. And so with that, we've had a lot more access to our refrigerator.
That is my best friend over there.
And so, but I speak of that because that might also be a consideration because we want to make sure that we can stay in the clothes that we have.
It is cheaper to stay in your clothes than to buy new wardrobes, I'll tell you that.
Did you say cheaper to keep her?
Cheaper to keep her. No, but I think it makes a whole lot of sense because, so we were in the grocery store the other day, and we bought a bunch of stuff, hopefully to last us through the week. And I just, when the register rung up and that total number came up, I wasn't happy. It was much larger than what I expected it to be. I think it was $120 or $130 somewhere around there. And I was like, I looked in the cart and it was not that much stuff within there. But, later that night, because we weren't planning on cooking that night because it was pretty late and I just didn't feel like cooking, nor did she. We went to a restaurant and we spent $50. And I think that kind of, woke you up a little bit, would you say?
That definitely put things in perspective for me, because I looked at the bill for our takeout and I was like, oh my gosh, we're spending half of our entire week's worth of groceries on this one meal. And that I was actually like really surprised at how much we actually would be saving by cooking and just eating the things that we purchased. So as far as essential and non-essential, just bringing it back to that conversation, food we know is essential. But we also know that you don't have to go out to eat every night, but you can treat yourself if your budget can sustain that. But it is very much more cost effective to purchase groceries and cook your meals at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One other topic we want to talk about is buying in bulk. When it comes to whenever something happens, everyone rushes out and buys all the bottled water, and buys all the bread
Toilet
and things
paper.
like that. Toilet paper, you can't even find any right now. But buying in bulk is certainly a way you can make purchases a little bit smarter. If you're able to do so, I would certainly recommend that. But then also like taking a little bit more time to look at the tags that are there on the counter. A lot of times they tell you how much per unit, if you will. So you can see if you're really saving money. So for example, one bottle of water, you may compare it to another bottle of water and say, oh, this is a great deal. But if you go down the aisle a little bit more and look at gallon or 5-gallon jugs, you'll find out you'll save a crap load more money. So, just sort of paying attention to those things and buying in bulk can certainly drive down your expenses month over month.
Right. And another thing to consider is just some of the savings that the stores offer. So the weekly coupons, things like that. Those are things that you can consider to help with lowering your weekly or monthly food purchases. So those are just a couple ideas.
Absolutely.
All right.
Next topic up, we have credit cards, which no one likes credit cards. But I mean,
everybody loves credit cards. They just like
everyone loves swiping them, but when it's time to pay the piper, it's not quite as fun. But I think forward looking at where we're going financially, not just individually, but as a society, I think everyone would agree that things may not be looking up. just being quite frank when it comes to financial awareness. And, I think credit is something that's going to be much more important moving forward. As we get into more of a financially strenuous time. It's going to be more difficult to leverage credit because companies are going to raise the requirement for credit. And it's just really important that we're protecting that at all costs. So, right after food and shelter, I think protecting your credit, making sure you always meet the minimum balance if possible, before you even talk about paying some of your other utilities and things like that, is going to be really, really key, because when something comes up, buying a car or something that you're going to need to leverage credit for, it's a bad time to try to fix your credit at that point. So if you're able to do so, certainly put in the time to protecting that and making sure that you're working always to raise that score and not sacrificing it for anything.
Right. So another thing that I wanted us to discuss is saving.
Okay.
Because we very much are in a crisis. And so, there are different schools of thoughts on saving and, when you should save and how much you should save and all of that. And really don't want to get into the weeds on that portion of it. But what I do want to suggest is that even during this crisis, if you're making income, I do think that saving should be a part of what you're doing.
So we had this conversation when we first met, and she was a saver and I was not. And I always asked her the question, well, how the heck am I supposed to save at the end of the month? There's nothing left because I've made sure of it. I bought whatever I wanted. So when you're looking at this list of essentials versus non-essentials, how would you prioritize your list to make sure that there's some money left for savings?
Yeah, so I would start with savings first.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I would... In order to do that, though, there is a step, and that is the budgeting. That is kind of knowing how much you have coming in and how much you going out, and the difference between that, because that would help you to understand how much you actually can save.
Got it.
So, that's another step, and we can talk about that in a future video about actually how to do a budget. But I think that even if it's like you can choose what you can save, but even if it is simply like $50 for the month, less if you have to, more if you can, I think that is going to be, I think it'll prove itself useful, especially as times go forward and we see, after all of this, we kind of see the aftermath and our job's still there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do we need to do to start recovering? What losses have we incurred? All those different things. Having a little cushion will not only help with paying for things, but just help with just mentally, just knowing you have something there.
Some room for error.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think, and I think that's really, you said that very well, and that's what we saw in the last financial crisis, where things happened, people weren't prepared, they were forced to use credit cards, forced to take out second mortgages on their home because there was no cushion there. And when you're doing that, you're kind of making decisions, you have to do it, but then when everything comes back, you're still left with this bill or with this big problem.
Right.
And so, no matter how much it is, I know a lot of people recommend like 3 to 6 months worth of savings.
Yeah.
Even if that seems impossible to you, you should still take as many small steps as you can towards that.
Yes.
Because $30, $50, $70, $100 in the bank is better than nothing.
That's absolutely correct. So let's talk a little bit more about where some of that savings can come from.
Okay.
We talked about some of the essential things like your home, food. We talked about clothing. So let's talk about some of the maybe essential for my life, maybe sometimes, maybe non-essential, depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
But let's start with entertainment.
Got it.
So
we have more entertainment now than ever.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point in time, it was just AOL internet with the dial tone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You had network
You
TV.
had mail.
Exactly. But now we have Netflix, Hulu, everything else that's sort of jockeying for our attention, and I think it's super important. However, everything may not be important at one time.
Yeah.
So for me personally, Desiree's always getting on me because we have both YouTube TV, we have Netflix, we have Amazon Prime movies, and
Disney Plus.
you gotta call me out like that. Disney Plus for the kid, right?
Kid, yeah.
So we have all of these things, but in a time such as this, is all of that necessary?
Yeah. Well, I think that would have to be a personal decision for the folks that are watching. So I would say that for me, I know that the shows that I watch, most of them come on network TV. ABC and NBC, those are my jam, okay? So that's network. We don't have HBO, so I'm not watching HBO or, some of those things. So quite honestly, if we had to pare down, I would just be like, look, I just need to watch Grey's Anatomy, and I need to watch This Is Us, okay? If I could watch those things, I'll be okay? But sometimes I also like to watch some movies too. So I like having our Netflix. I like, being able to just scroll through and choose something.
But I think the most important thing is that, you're making the firm decision that, okay, we need network television. So that is truly an essential.
Yeah.
But we're deciding that this non-essential movie service, we're going to continue to pay for because we want to have it. But we both understand that should, the rubber hit the road or should it hit the fan, that is non-essential and we would be able to get rid of it.
Right. And actually, that was a decision we made a few months ago, is that we decided not to have cable anymore because we realized that most of the channels that we had, we were no longer using, and that there were some streaming services that would still allow us to have some of the network channels and some of the other channels that we watch here and there. It wouldn't disturb our life that much to not have some of these things. And so we moved to a streaming service, which saved us quite a bit of money. So that's one thing, but I think there's another thing that a lot of people don't really consider.
Absolutely, and that can bring your cable bill down to zero, and that's digital antennas. Yeah. So everyone, when you think of antennas, you think of this metal hanger hanging off the side of the TV.
Old school. Let's put the foil on it. Okay?
Exactly, foggy screens and things like that. But it's come a long way.
Yeah.
And it's still a technology that's available and very well today. Some of them even have HD.
Yeah.
And so by going to not a Home Depot, actually
maybe
Home Depot would have it, or Best Buy, for as little as $50 or maybe even $30, you can get an HD antenna strap it on the side of your house or attach it to the wall, nail it somewhere,
Yeah.
and you can have 30 to 40 channels completely free, so you don't
Right.
have that monthly payment anymore.
Gray still comes on with the digital
Her
antenna.
and Grey's Anatomy.
So that's an option that people may not have considered, but they might want to as things continue along. So that still allows you to have some entertainment, and yes, it does. There are pros and cons with each of it because if there's rain happening, then your signal may go in and out with the digital antenna, but it's free.
I'd rather take free static
Right.
than
Okay.
$50
And then there's
static, right?
books.
Exactly.
There's books. There's games, puzzles. All the old school things
You're
that we
the
kind of
only
moved
person
away.
in the world that likes puzzles.
I love puzzles. Somebody on this loves puzzles too. Okay, so but things like that, we can go back to some of those old school entertainment things that don't cost, or I won't say that they don't cost. They cost a one-time cost, and then you don't have to worry about like this monthly bill coming.
Exactly, and that's money that you could then take for those months thereafter and apply to savings, as you would say.
Right. So let's talk about some other monthly expenses that come up that a lot of people mention. Let's talk about subscriptions.
Subscriptions. They always seem to have their money or their hand in my wallet.
Yeah, man.
And I think one of the things, and that's really why a lot of companies have moved towards subscriptions, because I give you a 30-day free trial, you forget about it, and I just hit that credit card every month thereafter.
Auto payment.
Exactly.
Auto renewals.
Exactly. So
we always read the fine print.
For us actually, I've started using a service called Truebill. There's a lot of other services out there that basically go through your bank account and find any reoccurring bill. So those things that are more difficult to find, that may be every other month or every month, that you may not even notice, those can certainly add up. And tools like that, you can find them in your App Store or Google Play, can certainly help whittle down your bills sort of dollar by dollar, if you will.
Yeah, he likes to find every cent. So, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I like to find every cent you're spending. Now, the ones I'm spending, it's okay.
That's also a true story. Okay. So, the other thing that we wanted to talk about was another essential, and I would definitely call this an essential because I use it for home, I use it for work, I use it for my business as well, and it's my cell phone. Okay, like that is essential for me, and so I can't go without it. But what I can do is maybe I can go back to my service provider and see what plans they're offering at this point. Maybe I don't need some. Maybe I can actually cut the fat on some of the services that I'm getting from my cell provider. So maybe I don't need unlimited data, but maybe I do. Okay.
Or maybe you don't need that tier of unlimited
there
data.
You go.
So our two plans are a little bit different. We
Yeah.
both have unlimited data, but mine's allows for faster tethering to my laptop. So when I'm driving around, need to hop on and send an email or something, I can certainly do that from my tablet or from my laptop.
Yeah.
But at this particular time, working from home, do I really need to spend that extra money?
Right.
I know one thing I learned from your dad actually is her dad is very quick to call a provider and say, I need my bill to go down.
Yeah.
And just be quiet until they say something.
Right.
And that's something that actually works sometimes. I mean, having that conversation, saying, I would like for my bill to go down, or I'm moving to a different provider, is certainly a way that you could reduce your bill sometimes.
Yeah. So, I've been with your company for X amount of years. I've been a loyal customer, and I would like to see how I can save some money.
Your dad has taught you well.
Yeah. So, some of those things are things you can do. Also, some of the discount providers that, we may have, some people have scoffed at before. I mean, I never had a problem with it because I'm all about saving money, but some things like the Boost Mobiles or the prepaid like Walmart cards or some of those type of things, like when you are in a situation like we're all finding ourselves in where we really need to figure out how to cut the fat, those are some options that we really need to be considering.
And I know once upon a time there used to be a stigma about it, that their networks didn't work well, or you had bad connectivity.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they're using the same exact networks of Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T. So there's really no difference. It's just about, are you okay with prepaying versus something else?
Right. It's kind of like brand name versus generic, where it's like literally the same thing except for the name. So, those are some options to consider.
I still believe my brand named allergy medicine works better.
I mean, okay.
But so let's take a few moments to kind of recap over what we've talked about today. I think you started out very strong in saying that, food and shelter, making sure you have a place to stay. You do not want to lose your place to live. So make sure your mortgage, your rent is paid on time, absolutely every single time.
Yeah.
Then some of the other things we prioritize, Desiree said she would actually put savings right even above that to make sure you have a target of savings as to how to put that money away. It doesn't necessarily have to take away from everything else, but you have to be putting something away specifically at a time like this. So you have and you can build that cushion.
Right.
Next, we talked about
credit cards and the use of those, basically maintaining your credit, making sure that you're building your credit, because that is going to become something that you may have to leverage as this thing goes on. And so you want to make sure that you're in the best credit situation that you possibly can be in.
Absolutely. And then talking about trimming some of those more non-essential things, or just modifying some of those. That's TV service, any subscriptions that you have that you know about, or some of the ones that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And lastly, and then also your cell phone service, going to some of those providers and finding out if you can reduce your bill from those.
Absolutely. So, we want to thank you for joining us today. Hope that you found some of these tips helpful. And I would love if you would comment, give us your feedback, and let us know if there are any other ideas that you all have had, or any things that you would like for us to talk about going forward. So thank you so much, and we will talk with you later. Bye.